Don't think I don't think about it. Don't think I don't have regrets.
Welcome back to Hannity's shocking news out of the liberal bastion of Hollywood as recently hacked emails of two prominent film executives reveal embarrassing and racially inappropriate exchanges about President Obama. Now, in an email chain shortly before President Obama attended a fundraiser back in 2013, Sony co-chair Amy Pascal, a prominent Democratic Party donor, and movie producer Scott Rudin were discussing the president's taste in movies, with Rudin asking, quote, would he like to finance some movies? Now, Pascal replies, quote, I doubt it. Should I ask him if he liked Django, referring to the slavery-themed movie Django Unchained? Now, Rudin responds, well, 12 years, meaning the movie 12 Years a Slave. Then Pascal goes on to say, or quote, or The Butler, or Think Like a Man. And then finally, Rudin emails, quote, Ride Along. I bet he likes Kevin Hart. Hart being a prominent African-American comedian. Now, both Rudin and Pascal have since apologized for their comments, but imagine the media outrage if it were Republicans who sent those racist emails. Now, here with Reaction, radio talk show host Larry Elder and Leslie Marshall are with us. You know, with all the talk, I would ask people, Larry, in the aftermath of Ferguson, the aftermath of Eric Gardner, any evidence that you have that ties these incidents to racism? Nobody can point to any evidence. I think racism is an overused word. This is racial. This is over the top. First of all, there's a lot to learn in those movies. 12 Years a Slave, The Butler. I thought they were terrific movies, and one of the other ones that were mentioned. I'm like, this to me is insulting and rude and stereotypical and just mean. And you don't hear a word about it. What if a conservative said these things?
Well, you're absolutely right. And if we were in a rational world, Sean, you and I would be talking about a company that's been subjected to a cyber attack. But we don't live in a rational world. We live in a world where Donald Sterling was tape-making private conversations, not dissimilar to the remarks that Amy Pascal has made, and he lost his team. I'm not sure why the same thing ought not apply here. You have a woman who's not only ridiculing the president, she's ridiculing important black movies like 12 Years a Slave, like The Butler, like The Help. How come that isn't deemed to be racist? How come she's not going to lose her job? If this were a fair world, and if Amy Pascal were a Republican, she couldn't leave her house.
Yeah, I mean, and let me ask you, Leslie, would Larry lose his job? Would Sean lose his job? Would Rush and Glenn and Mark lose their jobs? Would Don Imus lose his job if it was him that said something similar?
I don't think so. Hasn't Don Imus said something similar about some basketball players and some hair? You did throw his name in. But no, I really don't think so. I think at the end of the day, do you get ratings, you bring in a lot of money.
Really?
But I do think that these people, I do think
Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity having that discussion and it gets out in the papers, you don't think that would be a much bigger deal? You don't think there's a liberal bias that, quote, racism or racial, or the use of racial terms or insinuations is acceptable by the liberal left? I think the double standard is obvious.
I do think that there is not a double standard. I do think it's acceptable, I have to say, as a white chick, that when an African-American makes such a remark, there is a pass given. But these people are not African-American. And I do think there are liberals today that are defending these people, but I don't think there's any difference. I think their remarks are racial. I think they are wrong. And although they've made an apology, we'll see what the big names who are especially African-Americans start.
Tom, remember that? He apologized and again and again and again, and he apologized.
Sean, he's not sitting on the beach. He's still working.
Okay, but it took years for him to get a job back. Larry?
Sean? And Todd Aiken apologized repeatedly. What happened to him? The other thing that's fascinating about the Sony hack, Sean, is Hollywood is all about diversity, all about equal pay for equal work for women. And you find the top executives at Sony are all white, all male except for Amy. Nobody's making seven figures except for Amy, who's a female. This is the party that's all about equal pay, equal work, sensitivity. We care about diversity, except when it comes to our own businesses.
Let me bring another element into this, especially considering the White House, Eric Holder, Barack Obama, the three-time loser on high-profile race issues. Josh Earnest was asked to condemn these emails, and listen to what he says.
I think that there were a lot of people who did have who did have a personal reaction that caused them maybe to cringe a little bit when they read those emails. And I think
Did the president have a personal reaction since they were about him?
I haven't spoken to him about it.
What do you think?
I'm not sure what his reaction was.
What do you think?
Well, I guess I, like a lot of
Do you think they
people,
were racist?
when I saw those emails, and again, I've only seen some of the reports, but I certainly think that the decision that Ms. Pascal made to apologize was the appropriate one.
Oh, so Leslie, maybe if you donate enough money, you can buy a indulgence, if you will. Is that what happens? If you donate enough money, they'll cut you some slack.
Oh, I think anybody knows, left or right, Sean, if somebody writes a big enough check, they are forgiven. But, you know, let's look at some of the people in the past. If you're female NBA players, if you're an entire race of people, this is one man, the President of the United States. I don't hear President Barack Obama asking for them to step down or asking that they be fired or having anybody in his administration.
But if a conservative did it,
I don't believe he would call and ask them to step down
I find the
either,
whole thing
even if it was a
insulting and
conservative and
rude
didn't give him a dime.
the use of stereotypes and just mean at the end of the day. Larry?
And Sean, one of the reasons that the black people have voted 95% for the Democratic Party is because so many black people will tell you they feel the Democratic Party cares about them. They like them. They trust the Democratic Party. You scratch a liberal, you often find somebody like Archie Bunker who deep down inside has what I call that soft bigotry of low expectations. They really believe that black people are good people, but they just really can't compete. Therefore, we're going to lower the standard so that you can make it. That's how many liberals feel, and that's what these emails, in my opinion, Sean, reveal.
All right, Larry, Leslie, thank you both for being with us.